Hi, welcome to DrumWise Meets. Today I'm with a drummer who's worked with the likes of Pink Floyd, 10cc, Nick Kershaw and Jean Michel Jarre. This is DrumWise Meets Gary Wallis. Hi Gary.
Good morning. How are you?
So, the typical first interview question for you here, Gary. What age did you get into drums? And when you first started, what bands or artists inspired you?
Well, I played from a very early age, from about 4. Had a little toy drum kit at home. And then, yeah, I've been playing since I was a toddler. And like most toddlers of that generation, I'm inheriting my brother's record collection. And so it's not a choice of what you get inspired with. It's just what was available then, because there was no media or choices. It was just, a kid in the late 60s. It was whatever records you could possibly get to listen to. And there still wasn't many of those either. So all of that early stuff had been my brother's hand-me-downs, really. Obviously the Beatles, which are still my favorite thing since sliced bread. Ringo Starr's my favorite drummer ever of all time. But yeah, kind of being influenced from that collection of records, which was all very indicative of the time. It was, coming out of the Beatles thing into like the rock and roll era, especially the Zeppelin and that very big rock, period of the UK. And so that's what I kind of grew up. And it would have been John Bonham and Ian Pace and even Simon Kirke. Yeah, very much influenced by the rock drummers of the day. Yeah, they were definitely the early pioneers for me. And then as you kind of get a little bit older, get slightly more independent, get a couple of bucks, meet some other players, talk about it. Me and Steve White hooked up when we were very young as friends. So we would play together and rehearse together. And then he would turn me on to later that whole Buddy Rich, Art Blakey, Louis, that real straight ahead jazz stuff, that was a world I'd never really seen. And that was like, oh, crap, now my head really hurts. And then I guess going on through, it's become a little older, finding Steve Gadd, which is a great moment for all of us. Like, how does he do that? Wow, what does it sound like that? Yeah, kind of finding Steve Gadd and a lot more of the contemporary players and so on and so forth, like we all do. So, sorry for the long answer.
No, that's great. That's a perfect sort of answer. And we're going to come back to influences in a minute. But what was your first drum kit?
My first drum kit, my father took me to Drum City in Shaftesbury Avenue in 1967. Nice, that's a long time ago. And it was a Broadway bass drum, and that was kind of, I think that was kind of like the low end of kind of a Premier Olympic, like an old calfskin bass drum. It was a Broadway calfskin bass drum, an Olympic snare drum, an Olympic hi-hat, and a little kind of cymbal stand off the bass drum with two Ajax, with an Ajax ride cymbal and a pair of Ajax hi-hats. Man, I was the king of the world. King of the world, man. Oh. 3 years old. It sounded like the best. It's still, in my mind's eye, it still is the best sounding drum kit I've ever owned.
Yeah. And do you happen to still have it?
I do.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, I still have it, and it's in flight cases, and occasionally when I'm in my drum warehouse, I open it up and have a stroke of it and say thank you. And a couple of tears down memory lane type thing, it was the beginning of a big career for me. That so it's it's something it's you know, it's like your first teddy bear, you know.
Mm.
For
Yeah,
me, she was my first real love,
yeah,
and she will always be that. And so could never give her up, and I still
yeah.
occasionally get her out and confess still undying love for her.
Oh, that's so cool. You still got it. Oh, awesome. Um, Now, I said we're going to come back to influences. So I asked you about sort of your main influences
Mm.
when you started, but this for some people has been quite a tough one. If you had to pick just one, who would be your absolute all-time favorite drummer?
Ringo Starr.
I
End
thought you
of
were
the
going to say
conversation.
that.
Ringo, man, he does things to me that no other drummer ever does. He's the most unique. It was the most groundbreaking, I think, because until then, no one had written the pop book, and he wrote it as he was going along. And a great thing, there aren't any Beatles tracks that don't swing. You know, and it's such a great musical application to the playing. It's that real that that thing of using drums as an instrument and an accompanying tool rather than a lead instrument, you know, something to be virtuoso, being flashy. I've always been a big fan of the accompanying side of music and having the whole ensemble speak rather than having individuals stick out, apart from obviously the lead singer and the occasional soloist or whatever, a string passage or something like that. So I'm a big fan of the ensemble in all genres of music. And Ringo really encapsulates that for me.
You've obviously done a lot of things over, over the span of your career. I suppose if we specifically talk here about your playing side of things, what's been the highlight of your career so far?
Oh, there's been a few. I don't know. There's different things, different versions of that highlight, I guess. I'll never forget the thing we did at the Millennium for Jean Michel Jarre. We played at the Pyramids. We played right at midnight, and we were in front of the pyramids in Giza, and there were 1 million people in the desert, and we went live to every single channel around the world at midnight. That was kind of just mind-warping, just the size alone and the amount of kind of pressure coming in. And, you know, I guess the millennium was a big thing for everyone. We didn't know if the world was going to blow up. It was a change of millennium, a lot of expectation. It was a lot of danger, trepidation, the biggest show on earth. You're kind of standing there thinking, fuck me, this is mental. And so as a highlight, I guess that one's always going to poke out because musically, it was really interesting. It was a really great thing to play with Jean Michel Jarre, doing that whole electro thing. But just from all those other factors, just it was so huge and it was perverse and all of the things that a concert like that should be. And that's kind of quite indelible for me because even though we were up on stage like 4 hours, I think it was, and you're still up there 3 hours rocking away and thinking, this is still really, really mad. When you get into a gig and you're playing away and whatever nerves or anticipation you have, they settle into the songs and you play through, But that one, I remember 3 hours later thinking, this is absolutely mental. What the hell was going on up here? And it was great. I really enjoyed it. We had a lovely, lovely show, but it was, I guess that one is a very big, also Live Aid was really good. That was very interesting. The first one in 1985, because I was playing in a band called the Power Station with Robert Palmer. We went on, it was obviously a huge day, and we went on and played our 4 songs, to a packed JFK Stadium. It was all very, very nerve-wracking because it was my first stadium gig. Very nerve-wracking, big day, a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation. But that was really, really magnificent. The euphoria was really something else as you kind of turn around. So they got the stage, like a circular stage, You sit up at the back while the act is playing in front of you. Then revolving stage comes around and you just go, JFK, 1, 2, and you're in, right? You're in. And so that was great. We played our songs, and I was playing with the Duran Duran boys. They just said, look, we've had someone go down in the band. Can you come back on and do the Duran set? Because you know it. Like, okay, just going to walk on with Duran Duran and play the set, no rehearsal at Live Aid. They went, yeah, that's the one. So I went off stage, got a shower, put some new clothes on, came back and played the Duran set. So I played twice on Live Aid, and that was obviously a big thing. And those at moments like those, they're very indelible because they're just such, I mean, they're career-changing moments. And to have two of them on the same day, they certainly leave they leave a mark on you that you never forget. Yeah. Sorry, another long answer.
No, it's great. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, they are brilliant highlights, definitely. Now, talking about revolving stages and things like that, from highlights to maybe the other end of the scale, and, you know, I want like full-on gossip answers for this one. Have you ever had anything go wrong on stage, whether it be brain fails or gear fails, that you can tell us about?
Oh, well, like, as you know, I've been around the block for a long time, so the amount of epic fails over my career have been quite magnificent. I mean, from, as you say, from a little brain part to, oh, baby Jesus, it's all gone so wrong. I'm just trying to think of, we had a very interesting one with Pink Floyd. We were playing away, long story short, and they sold too many tickets. And the audience couldn't get in. There was just too many of them. They got very angry and they started fighting. And then a fight came into the stadium, then up the ground, you know, on the floor of the stadium. And there's like, I don't know, but there's thousands and thousands of people killing each other. We're like, oh shit, what's happening? And then I said to the bass player, I don't feel very well. And he said, yeah, me neither. And I pass out in the middle of a song. And then kind of wake up backstage. This is in Rome. I wake up backstage and I'm on a stretcher and there's the whole of Pink Floyd. I turn around like that. There's every single member of Pink Floyd laying on a stretcher, unconscious, with ice on their head and lemons on their eyes. I'm like, what the fuck? And it turns out it's the only way they could stop the fighting was to stop the band. But the chaos was so big, there was no negotiating or talking. So the Roman police came and just shot the band with tear gas in the middle of the song. And we all collapsed in the middle of the song and had to be stretchered off.
Wow.
That's a big fail. Yeah, that was a very surreal fail, you know.
Yeah. Wow. Did the lemons on your eyes help though?
I think so. I don't know. But again, another really kind of wow moment. It's like, what the hell happened here? That was a very good film. I'm just trying to think of anything. I mean, there's all. I was doing one recently, and it was great. And I was just doing this German act, and it was really great. But the bass player had a bass change. And I don't know how they'd done it, but the bass player, he managed to tune 3 strings to E. All 3 strings were tuned to E. Obviously, you've never heard anything like it. But then the fear, as he changed string, and then trying to play all the different notes in a different shape of the part of the neck, they're all the same notes. And you can see this poor guy just die on the inside. And he's up on the 3rd string, and it's all the same fucking notes. And nothing computes. And the poor soul just has a complete meltdown and just takes his hands off the bass, like crying. And I'm like, bang, stop the damn song now. I have to stop and apologize to the audience and say, go and sort that out in the bass, please. But I mean, I guess there's so many of those epic fails, you know. I've had quite a lot of ones with gear and stuff, like especially with pyros and stuff, you know, like you're playing away and they put, 20 tons of pyro through the fucking stage, and it's like, where's the rest of my drum kit gone? And you're there, and like that whole side of the kit is like, it's like 4 cymbals and 2 floor tom-toms gone. They've blown them off stage and they're on fire behind you. You just got like half your drum kit left because the pyro guy has got a hangover and he's put way too much explosives in and just blown you up and taken your kit with you. A few good pals like that. I'll come back to it if I can think of any more.
Yeah.
Funny anyway.
No, that's cool. That's awesome. And maybe now is a good time for me to ask you, just because I'm not sure of your involvement in this. What was the Spinal Tap like involvement for you? What happened with that?
Well, we were just playing the Prince's Trust thing, like multiple artist. I was directing it. It was a multiple artist event, and they were just one of the artists that came on and we had to play with. It was hilarious. They were in full character, and we had the full Stone Angel. We played a song called Big Bottoms, and it was Gilmore on lead bass, Pino on bass. There was 6 bass players and a lead bass player. We just did that for the Prince's Trust thing. It was a load of fun, just to raise some money. And I got blown up at the end of it, which was great, as all drummers in Spinal Tap traditionally are.
Exactly, and that's why I asked you when you said half of your drum kit was missing. I thought it was a...
Oh yeah, no, that one's the drummer's missing. That's the big requirement. No drummer makes it to the end of the gig. That's the deal.
Exactly.
It comes with a terminal contract, Spinal Tap.
So, what are your hobbies away from drums or away from music?
Don't have any. I work 7 days a week. Honestly, I work 7 days a week writing and producing, and music directing, putting lots of bands out. That's all I do. I work, like I said to you today, I started at 4 this morning to get all the mixes out and everything done today because it's such a busy day. I honestly, hand to God, I don't do anything else. I don't even have a car because I don't get time to drive. I do spend 7 days a week in the studio. I don't really leave. I'm kind of just glued here now.
But the reason I made that question, from a drum point of view or a music point of view, is because I hope you agree that, what started out as a hobby, drums, music, for all of us, becomes our career. So there's no reason why it can't still be something that we love doing.
Yeah, well, I still love it, but it's definitely not a hobby.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hobby that's turned into a very serious infection.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A terminal disease, if you will. I mean, yeah, it's for sure it was that hobby, but it is now an all-consuming. It is a virus, really. I mean, albeit the most beautiful one you can possibly get, but it doesn't leave a lot of room for much else.
Yes. Well, does it leave room for this? So the most anticipated question of this interview series: what's your favourite biscuit?
I eat biscuits.
Oh, so there's no room. There's no room for biscuits.
I don't like them. I just don't like sugar very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of biscuits, cake, chocolates. Like, if I have to have one, I guess it's a chocolate digestive, but probably one of those every 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, honestly, if you had a kitchen full of them, I'd just go, right, I'll just have a cup of tea, thanks.
Yeah.
Never been a fan.
What tickles your pickle then, so to speak?
I'm not sure I can tell you that.
But what would you go to instead of a biscuit?
I don't know, not really. It's always a bag of peanuts for me.
Ah, okay.
Very savoury, very salty. That's why my adverse disaffection for sweet things. If it's a chili and it's got salt in it, I'm your man. Sugar, biscuit, cakes, on a rare blue moon. Okay. On a blue moon of blue moons, really.
If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self Normally I say when you started playing drums, but of course you were so young. But you know, when early on when you were playing drums, what would that advice be?
Very simple. Learn to be a great piano player much earlier in your career, so you have much more musicality and awareness about your playing through every aspect of it. And I say that on piano because you have that lovely facility for the bass, harmony, and all of the melody within one instrument. And having that, being able to encompass that above all, is your musicality is at the forefront rather than your drumming. And it's my big regret. I should have learned to play the piano much earlier, and the facility to write songs, be more inclusive in a band, and contribute more to arrangements and things when you're in the band situation.
Cool. Excellent.
That was a pretty good answer, right?
It's a really good answer. Yeah, definitely. Gary, thank you so much for spending your time with us here at DrumWise today. It's really been a pleasure talking to you.
T-Man, best of luck with DrumWise. Lovely being here. Keep grooving.